thought Google Hangouts was dead, by the way.
No, the APIs are closed for any kind of partners. So, or they're open for existing partners who actually have built something on top of those, but they're not opening it for anyone else.
Exactly.
They're rebuilding the backend.
Yeah.
Now I need to verify that actually it shows. Open.
I think so.
But anyway.
No, for me it's online.
It's online. All right.
Cool. Changes?
Yeah, no. It's probably when I started, it changes the opening time anyway.
Mm. That's not really doing it. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's slow.
And how many people were subscribed?
Only 15. It's 8 count.
Yeah, that's fair. I was trying to get the people from our office joined a little bit, so I mentioned free pizza.
Not the best of luck.
I want. Well, Mahesh might be joining after I mentioned free pizza. And Barney showed some.
So quiet here, isn't it? It's not usually like this. Today after well.
Yeah, yes. People are certain there's yeah, right. Also,
Yeah. We have a microphone as well.
There's a mic.
I have no clue how to use it. So it's red button.
so this is great presenter experience, right?
Yeah.
You come in and it works.
Yeah,
Just-
even that works.
Like you turn it on, it works.
Cool. Put it right here. How much are we expecting?
15 signed up, but
Was that last count? Because I kind of have to.
I'm a non-signed up of
Really? I dropped 15.
When did you last check? Okay. Yeah, that might be mixing.
So if the 8 comes, it's a
I think I'm the uninvited one. I didn't sign up.
okay, you're out.
Could be 16 then. Considering the huge pizzas. I don't think we're going to run out of that. Do you have your friend who was like so into chatbots joining in as well? Got his name. The guy who did a presentation first reboot. Who lives in? He was in the remote presentation. He's from Kuopio.
Kuopio. He's coming to next.
Like physically? Or?
Yeah, physically.
No, but like, is he joining through YouTube?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
Because he was a guy who was interested in
And he's done one of the chatbots.
one of the chatbots.
Yeah, for it's an office assistant for the company.
Cool.
It actually saves them a few hours a week.
And just a few hours.
Automated, yeah. In the Slack environment for and stuff.
Very cool. There's good business. It's like at some point in the beginning I was a bit skeptical about it.
No, it's gonna
Get
be.
into it and it's like, it makes sense. Well, I think it's also the thing, there's going to be a hype as well. There's going to be situations where it should be. That's us speaking 10 seconds ago.
Why do we get the video?
Well, it's from your webcam.
Why shouldn't be? It should be sharing my screen.
Because there's also the icon that shows your webcam, isn't it?
Swim in our office now.
Right?
That's the way it should be. You did that check.
Yeah. You any good at football? You good at football?
No.
Not good at track.
Oh, late.
Okay, two you can see.
I am so.
You're the defense. You're the defense.
It doesn't. So basically, as the ball needs to go in
The other way.
Oh, sorry.
Oh! Defense.
That's not
Excellent defense. Again!
Okay, I'm done. Yeah. Screw you.
Moi. Mitäs tässä?
Jahkaa veden.
Oh, joo.
Ei nyt ennen esityksiä vedetä. Piknikki vedyn. Eli tässä on siellä kursseja. Hello. Nyt pitää ruveta päättää opinnat. Ilmoitus sieltä alkaa tulee mielenkiintoinen. Rupesko?
Comparison to new people in the old one. Green conductor. Oh, yeah. Well, didn't even have it.
Pitkä siinä vaan.
Niin. Kalaa. That's pizza. Sä oot sit löytänyt, mitä sä teet. Mä teen omaa. Vähän tällaista juttua. Aika voidaan hankea siihen kaikki. Sitten mitä tässä nyt tuli opiskeltua? Siihen kauheat läänit päälle, että premiumi tämmönen ja sitten 5 € kuussa tämmönen. Niin. Ja sit se pitäisi olla jonkinlaista vähän päälle, mikä kiinni siitä. Joo. No ja äkkihän nyt jos kirjasta käytetään. Vielä vähän odotellaan Matti myöhemmin.
Onko siinä apikallisesti koulutusta vai kutsusta?
Niin.
Syksyllä ehkä.
No en mä tiedä. ETU-maassa meni siihen, että nämä tekee musta videoviikon hätätön. Noitten isojen teollisuusyritysten ja aivan. En tiedä.
Ei ole väliin, kuka se on. Se oli Hiinassa.
Joku saa tehdä.
Helmikuussa vai helmikuussa? Okei. Joo. Kyllä on tykkää. Se on niinku avoin kiitos. Joo.
How do I know? Does it actually give any voice to anyone? The music. Yeah.
Can you say something?
Something.
I'm listening to a conversation I had like 5 minutes ago.
You guys get drinks from the fridge now? Pizza stuff. No.
Yeah, there was a request to actually eat the pizzas, and
That's it, come on, actually.
yeah.
So first pizza then?
Yeah, let's get the pizzas, and the online people can wait for 10 minutes.
All right, let's do that. Is there any bigger pizza?
I think there is, yeah. Let's see.
Onko sä yksi puhujista vai?
Ei.
Sä oot vaan kuuntelemassa.
Taisi mä ihan muuta vaan ne hommia tekemässä.
Okei. No niin, ihan niin kuin multa puuttuisi yksi puhuja täältä. Löytyy.
Joo. Hyvä. Tässä selaa.
Joo. On tossa. Kuinka on niissä?
Joo.
Mikä meidän varsijärjestelmä?
Siellä on ekana siinä.
Okay.
Ja sitten tulee tuosta botista. Tuohon alkuun voi heittää muutama sana jotain tähän johdatusta ja sitten
Right.
katsotaan, jos löytyy. Täällä on meinaan tämä. Niin, jos on aktiivista porukkaa, niin jaetaan tänään vielä tiedoksi sitten tyypille, kuka niin viittii twiitata, niin saa yhden gift cardin ja sitten jos on joku tosi aktiivinen yleisö, se saa. Ja sitten on villikortti, mitä voidaan miettiä, mitä se tehdään, vai jaetaanko myöhemmin. Mutta jokaisessa tommosessa, mitä me jaetaan, niin niissä on noin ja muut paikallaan. Katsotaan, mitä keksitään.
Heti jotain.
Niin. Okay, let's begin. So the online people don't have to wait for that to finalize the features. You can eat while you're listening. Just a sec, the people are coming with the pizzas. We'll start in a few minutes. Next one. Let the music go down. Excellent. All right, welcome to APIOps Tampere meetup here at Futurice, which is the host company for this evening. And I don't remember which number, how many meetups we have had already in Tampere and elsewhere as well. Theme or topic is to reboot developer experience. If you don't know what is developer experience, don't worry about it. And if you don't know what is a sucking developer experience, don't worry about it. You're gonna hear what it is and how the APIs suck. And you're also gonna hear about the next level of developer experience and the support of it as form of the chatbot-driven API bot. But again, welcome to the meetup. And here's the agenda. As it was mentioned, we're gonna hear from Viljami about why some APIs suck, and yours might too. So probably an example of bad developer experience and something not to follow, but something to learn from. Hear from Philippe about the API bot. And if he also promised that if you want to actually try it out yourself, there's a chance for you to actually do it right here, right now. But eventually you can do that after the event as well. Then we have this thing called APIOps community or APIOps developer love, which is basically Amazon gift cards, which we give out to active and marvelous community members. And this time all these gift cards are promoted or sponsored by the hosting company Futurice, and each of them is $25. Buy whatever you want from Amazon with those cards, books for your loved ones, or toys for your kids, or even Amazon Web Service server power or whatever you want to call it. You can purchase whatever you want with those. So how do you actually get the gift cards? The first option is actually you to tweet a pic in the Twitter with the hashtag APIOps, and it's not gonna go to the first one. It's gonna be a random one, and me and the organizer are gonna, the hosting company is gonna pick the one actually who we're gonna give it to. So you're allowed to post actually multiple tweets, so it increases your opportunity. Go ahead, and whoever is active here is gonna get one Amazon gift card, if there's gonna be one. If everyone is silent, it's gonna be given to me. No, joking. It's gonna be given to someone else in the community eventually. Nothing from me. And then there's the wild card. We don't know actually what to do with it yet, but let's see if there's something miraculous going on. We have something to actually reward for it. So that's the opportunities. Tweet, be active, or do something miracle. Don't jump from the building or something else. That's dangerous. Something else. But before we go on, a few words about the global APIOps network. We live interesting times now. As you know, this network started from Tampere, and we have had multiple meetups here already. But now we have meetup groups also in Helsinki, and APIOps Budapest in Hungary was started a few months ago. And last week we have a fourth group now, and it's now in Denmark, in Copenhagen. So we're really growing up now and becoming truly a global network, and that's what we are actually after. And the aim is to actually have APIOps groups in at least 13 countries by the end of this year. And who knows what happens after that. But anyway, so keep in mind the APIOps love if you want the Amazon gift cards. And the first speaker for us in this meetup is now Philippe Luickx Jarkko Moilanen from Futurice. And as it was mentioned, he's an expert in sucking developer experience, probably the opposite as well. And his expertise, as I heard from the company, I don't know who decided this. Is it you or someone else? But he's an open source evangelist and a propaganda person, and complains of stuff about on Twitter, active Twitter, and uses Vim, which is some hate it, but anyway, it's an expertise anyway. But let's welcome Philippe on the stage now.
Can you open up the browser for me? Cool. I have to first search my presentation for you. Sorry, bear with me. And we have a browser window. Good.
There it should
Okay,
be.
there we go. So first I have to go on GitHub and find it. This is also a plug for my GitHub account, so you have to go and visit. See what I've been doing. Other stuff. Why some APIs suck? This looks correct. Okay. Can I put it on the full screen mode? Okay, it does work. Okay, that's good enough. Right, so I have to be completely honest with you. I kind of got this request on Saturday, so basically I just used this afternoon to cobble something up about API developer experience. But anyways, my name is Philippe, as I got introduced just now. I'm going to talk to you about, well, I already got some introduction, so I'm also kind of known as the anti-digitalist guy, kind of because I throw things out on Twitter and people tend to not like it. Also been featured on Forbes, which is quite nice, and also a claimed security expert. Okay. So what I've been doing at Futurice for now is actually microservice architecture for Kesko, one of our biggest customers in Tampere. So basically just building RESTful APIs on top of other APIs. So why do you want to talk about bad APIs? It's fun and it makes me feel better about myself, right? but mostly because you want to learn from bad experiences and common mistakes. Okay. So I'm just going to go with a story. And this isn't a real story. So any APIs and issues described in the following story are completely fictional. So this is not guess code, right? And these are a combination of multiple bad API experiences. So not all of it is the same customer. I've just kind of done a fictional story, combined some of those bad experiences, and also, well, yeah, if you happen to notice that this API looks something I know, it's probably coincidental. Any of the APIs are presented here, I know, really. Yeah.
No APIs.
Yeah. Also not that. Yeah. Okay. So the story goes: our client says that we have these third-party APIs, but we would like you to build abstraction on top of them, which is a bit weird because you already have APIs. Why would you want to build like abstraction on top of them? But yeah, let's go and find out. It's just going to be integrations, right? Can't be that bad. What did we find? Let's look at the first API. SOAP APIs. Yeah, cool. I know SOAP. I mean, I learned that in school. It's pretty easy to use, isn't it? Well, no API documentation, of course, because SOAP APIs are self-documenting. You've got the WSDL file. So yeah, that's the first issue right away. So no documentation. It would be good to have at least a README or something, a few example requests somewhere. Would be nice for the developer. Well, we have the WSDL because it's SOAP. Except no, we don't have a WSDL because it's published somewhere, and we just get a URL and try to get WSDL. Nothing. So I have to ask the customer again, the client, where's the WSDL? And they find out it's behind a gateway, and the gateway doesn't support giving the WSDL, which is kind of bad because I need that to use a SOAP client. The solution is easy. We'll just email it as a WSDL file, and that's fine. I mean, we can work with that. It's fine. It's not optimal, but it's good. So let's set up a SOAP client and just explore the API because we don't have any documentation. We just kind of have to look at what we got. And this is what happens. The first thing that happens is I get an error message that says, target namespace is already used by another schema. I have no clue what that means. Okay. So again, I have to contact our client, and it turns out the WSDL file is just not compatible with my SOAP client library, which I'm using on Node.js. Fine. So it turns out the issue was this. We had two tags that both define the same target namespace. Basically, they've just split one definition into 2 lines, 2 tags, which is a problem on some clients. Some clients know how to handle that. So the solution, just in my code, I merge the elements dynamically. And if I want to actually read the file and look at, use some graphical user client, I just edit that WSDL file to use it. Quite easy. Not optimal, but workable. Finally, yeah, my SOAP client is set up. I can actually start now exploring the API. So what do we have? We have something called lookup member. Pretty basic getter. So I'm using SOAP UI to generate like these example requests here. So quite simple. So we have lookup member, then a request, like pretty basic SOAP stuff. Member ID. So I'm just going to go with one. There's probably going to be something at ID number 1. And I get a 200 OK response, but that doesn't look very good. Right. So pulse code environment server. Right. OK. So apparently it's a problem with the server. It's good to know. And then a call string that looks like a Java error object, a null pointer exception. That's not very helpful now, is it? So what do? Again, well, this is a problem. The 200 code is wrong, definitely, because we don't want to be checking just the content of the response. And the other problem is it's that bad error message, obviously, because, yeah, null pointers are not very useful. The consumer of the API, maybe the developer of the API itself, but not the consumer. So we had to ask for help again. And since there's no available documentation, had to contact the client via email again to ask for help. It took 3 days and 7 emails to get to the person who was actually able to provide any help with this and actually give us a working example request so that I can actually use the API. And finally, it turned out it was just, I was namespacing I mean, SOAP UI, which was generated this request, was actually namespacing the content of the request itself, which for some reason this API doesn't support. Okay, we can still work with this. Now we get a 200. Okay, that looks a bit better. I mean, we got a return object, and we get something that looks like a member of something, maybe. Cool. But yeah, that was a problem. It's quite hard to get help. If you have to email your client, because this is a third-party API. This is actually some company selling their API to our client. Information available on their website. The API documentation doesn't give you any contact information. So, well, there wasn't any documentation. You maybe want some contact as well. Right, well, try setter next. We have got a customer, a member from the database, and now let's try to add one. Again, so I did this. I had to also remove the namespacing on those email and request tags and the other property tags. And it works. Awesome. Except that's not the optimal thing you want to see when you put something in a database. You might want to actually see what you put in there. So now I actually have to make another request to get the UUID, because I need the UUID for my own purposes. Obviously, I'm going to need that. So again, I have to do a get request. And this is called a chatty API. Chatty APIs are APIs that actually want you to have as much communication with the API as possible, which isn't a very good strategy, because then you have to generate a lot of traffic, and it's slow to actually handle. But fine, we can still live with that. I guess this is one of the reasons they might want us to do the abstraction on top of their APIs. Okay, so next I want to test error messages. So I know that email should be a unique index, so there shouldn't be 2 different emails in the database. So I'm going to add a duplicate request. So basically send another request again.
So that was documented.
That was from in our kind of spec. That wasn't in the API spec at all. No, yeah. And we hope that they would implement that.
You assume.
Yeah, we assume, yes, that's correct. So what happened? Another 200 OK response, but this time something different.
So that's Swedish,
Yeah.
right?
So I actually get a fault code, which looks like it might be machine readable, but actually, if you just look at it, it's a generic SOAP service fault. So that's not very helpful. And then in Swedish. But luckily, I do know Swedish. It does help. But why? Why would you do this in an API? It just doesn't make any sense. You want to have machine readable messages.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it is better than nothing. That's true. But I would prefer it just regular US English. Thank God for pakkaruotsi. Okay, another SOAP method. Let's try one more. So pretty straightforward. Get member by UUID this time, because they're generating UUIDs for those resources in the API. So the payload looks simple enough. It's just request and it has a GUID property. Okay, seems to work just fine. But there's one little problem here. You might not see it now.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
well, it's not the same as you had previously.
Exactly. Right. That's wrapped in result, and the previous one would return. So that's nice. So it's completely like, now I have to handle this in my code, and I'm probably going to spend a day just debugging what went wrong, because you would assume that 2 different getters would have the same kind of response object, but no. But yeah, this actually happened. So yeah, yeah. Inconsistent API responses are quite bad. It can be a bit of a nightmare to kind of handle those responses. But yeah, so that was the first API. That was the SOAP one. I guess that was okay. We handle it. It's a REST API. The client is telling us it's a REST API, which basically always means it's just a RESTful API. It's never a real REST API. And they even have open API documentation, which is awesome on swagger.json. Do you guys know open API spec? Please use it. It's great. And if the iframe would work here, I would actually see the Swagger UI, but let's forget it. Let's explore it. So we have get pet and an ID. Let's try what it says. Looks good. So we have an ID, a name, it's Lassie, and then we got properties, name, 2, gender, female. Oh, I mean age 2. It works, but I mean it's not very nice now, is it? You just have to write code to actually go through the properties and then look at the name of the property and then get the value, which is just why'd you do this? Because I mean, this is a pet peeve of mine. I mean, I hate passing these in my API consumer code because you could just do this. It's so simple, right? So going from this to this makes no sense to me. I mean, there probably is some reason to do that in your own code because your own data structure might look something like that. But why would you expose it that way to the API?
Yeah, that shouldn't be the driving force.
Exactly. Exactly. You want to design your APIs for the developers or the consumers of the API. Okay, moving on. Let's do a post. So we have a pet. Obviously, it's not real REST because we're using post here. I mean, you would use put or something else here. But yeah, posting pet. The payload is quite simple. We're adding Garfield there. Cool. And this is what we get.
All right.
That doesn't look too good. So we get a status, it's queued, and UUID. Oh, okay, so what do I do here? I mean, we got the Swagger documentation, and if I look at it, I find out, yeah, what happened to Garfield?
Looks got lost.
Yeah, it looks like there's something called pet queue. And I can send my UUID to see what happened to Garfield. So let's do that. Let's just see what happened to Garfield. Oh, status, job queued, another UUID. Great, so this is a good example of really chatty API. They just want you to request and poll and see what happens. So I basically have to poll this endpoint until I know what happened to Garfield. And 15 minutes of polling later, it tells me job is done, there's a UUID and there's a result. And I get a pet ID, and let's see if Garfield's there. Awesome, it did work. Really was that necessary? We just added something in a database, at least as far as I can see. Nothing happened, nothing like big. There might be something in the background, but who knows?
Well, Garfield got a lot of time to eat.
Yeah, that's probably the reason.
It's a human validation.
Yeah, human probably using every 15 minutes going in and writing something down, probably. So what did we learn from these two small examples? At least we learned why the client wanted to abstract these APIs. It's not very much fun to do services with these. So number one, you want to document your API with examples. You should provide executable examples, like just shell commands that you can actually use so you can verify that this API actually works really easily. And you want to use this API standards like, well, with SOAP you'd use WSDL, and with RESTful APIs you would use OpenAPI swagger.json. It's really useful, as we saw here. Quite simple, return appropriate HTTP status codes. You can just look up on Wikipedia a list of HTTP status codes. It's really not that hard. Just use that, and you can generate useful structured error messages. So don't do Swedish. I mean, it's as simple as that. Just structures. Use something. Use a library or something. Make it easy to get help, and I can't stress this one enough. I mean, everything is kind of forgivable, but if you have to email somebody for 5 days, 3 days, it's just not a very good experience for me. Avoid making chatty APIs. As you guys saw, it's not very nice, is it? You should always have your API serve its purpose in as few requests as possible. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule. There might be some reason that you actually have to do something like polling some endpoint, but still you might want to always keep it as a small amount of requests as possible. And API responses should be consistent. So name your resources consistently and don't do unnecessary nesting or arrays or something like that, because it's just a pain to pass on the client side. Yeah, that's kind of related to the previous one. Simple data structures. Use standards for these things. Do the same thing in different places. So go ahead and look at other examples of good APIs. Yeah, that was a, I guess we covered that already. Okay, so how do I then make a good API? Well, I don't know. Read. That's kind of my view on it. Those I've myself read them, and really, really good guidelines. Please do check those out. But yeah, thanks. That was it.
Questions?
Yeah.
Comments, topics?
Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, so it's something I've been looking into myself. I've always mentioned standards for API structures.
Yeah.
So let's assume it's JSON. There, by my knowledge, there's only one that's
Yeah.
half accepted.
Yeah.
Do you have any pointers?
What's it called? It's you guys have to know it. I just forgot the name of it. It's microdata. What's it called? Well, there is a standard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for pretty much all like
Just like validation
yeah.
and all.
real life
Yeah.
examples of stuff like age and then properties, addresses, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So they're sort of quite easy to just look up and use.
So you would suggest using that?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I just forgot the name of the standard. Yeah, Google it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a question. We have a group where we call us API jammies.
Mhm.
We don't know that much about coding, but we still try to make like very
Yeah.
simple APIs much as possible. Like for example, like giving your date of birth and your date of birth, and it will like return you some your zodiac sign.
Yeah.
So we are learning to make to like Swagger documentation how it works. So
Cool.
for us to make an API, like for the very beginners, what would you suggest? Like how to do it?
I mean, you don't have to code to make an API. I mean, you can just use tools like Swagger. The Open API project has lots of great tools where you can just actually kind of mock up those APIs without actually having any logic in the background. So you can do the Swagger JSONs and then use the Swagger UI, for example, kind of test it if it looks nice to you. And then, I mean, I wouldn't go ahead and start coding your own web server. I mean, that's not a very good way to start. Yeah, but use different tools and use different simple things that you can start with. Yeah, that's a really good example, actually. Just do a zodiac sign API. It's good.
Yeah, just get back JSON API. It's cool.
I'm actually talking about something else.
Well, that's at least one standard that I know. That
Should we Google this right now?
Of course, JSONAPI.org.
JSONAPI.org. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the only one that I found that is being used in some libraries.
So there's something called schema.org. So this is what I was talking about. So schema.org is also has these different structures for different data. But yeah, that I have to look this one up as well. I hadn't seen this one before. But yeah, schema.org is a good place to resource to go for if you want to represent like addresses or any like real life stuff, or it could be coordinates or birthdays or anything really. And they have some way to represent those kind of data in an API. Usually it's JSON or XML.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
I guess that's it. Thanks.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's you.
Cool t-shirt.
Okay, that was why some APIs suck, and yours might too. And some advice is not to suck. And if you point pointers to data models and that point to actually go to. I checked out the Twitter, and the results are sucking at the moment. So please perk up. Use your Twitter account, APIOps hashtag, and a picture from the event, and you might get. Now we have one candidate here, actually, to getting the getting the APIOps love. That's enough.
It's like
Close down the Twitter.
And well, anyway, the next presenter is Philippe from APInf, and his expertise. I came up with this. Sorry, I didn't have time to actually ask you in the chat, but you can fill in. But I try to remember what you actually do in APInf and what might be your expertise. But yeah, you're a business analyst. You understand how the business works in the API economy. So you're kind of an capitalist as well, in my opinion. And you also understand the API value chain because you also always think from the beginning to the end. So you understand the whole, that it's not just the API management or not just building the API, but it's a bigger chain you actually need to build and manage. So you understand that as well. And naturally, you have experience in the chatbots, because one of the topics you're going to talk now, sorry about the contrast issue here at the local setup, so about APIBot. Your API chatbot, and let's hear what it is actually.
All right. Yeah. So while Jarkko is helping me out with the presentation, typically I like to say, like, if you put a salesperson and a developer in the same room, they're going to kill each other, and I'm the guy in the middle who makes sure that doesn't happen. So I try to, you know, I speak dev and I speak business, and can make sense between those two. But yeah, lately I've been into chatbots, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. Yay. So yeah, by the way, APIBot.ai was free. We figured, like, hey, that's a great name for a new product, so let's do this. But you might ask, like, why chatbot? Well, the fact is, and this is a very simple graph, there is more happening on any messaging platform than there is on social media platforms. So there is more people using Messenger than using Facebook. And that shows something. It's namely that a lot of people use chat, use conversations in their daily lives. It's a very natural way of interacting with each other and with other services, for instance. And as you can see, probably it's going to, like, the gap is going to be bigger over the years to come. So it's a trend, and it's definitely something every company should take into account and do something about. And that's also where Jarkko comes in the picture, because when Jarkko started working for APInf, we had a lot of ideas bouncing off to each other, and we had some really good times. And one of the things Jarkko was like, yeah, chatbot, that would be really, really cool if we could do something about it. I don't know what, prototype, whatever. Let's just do something. And at that point, I was looking into chatbots for another project, and I was like, that shouldn't be too difficult, you know? So what we did basically is something like this. Right. The time when we started, it was still white outside, so it's kind of fit. So we just went head on with it. I told our CEO, like, give me a week or two and I'll get something ready. And here's the result. So basically, this is something today. I actually made the screenshot today. We have a chatbot on Slack. You can say hello, and it's going to say good morning to you. It's a very polite chatbot. But it can do a lot more. And you have to see this in the context of a Swagger file of a developer asking for well, information about a certain API, so documentation. So first of all, that's also a bit like, you need to give the capabilities of what can this chatbot do. So you can say, like, okay, what can you do? Can you help me? And it will say what the scope is of this chatbot. So basically, you can show all the APIs it has, you can add more, and then you can ask some documentation, some information about a certain API. All right, well, simple. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then you need to repeat yourself and hope it works. It goes quite okay, then it will answer you, like, for instance, at this moment we have the obvious pet store. Who knows pet store here, by the way? Pet store is the Swagger example that you will find everywhere. Uber is the other Swagger example, slightly less popular, but still good example. So yeah, well, here's two APIs. Let's use pet store. So okay, it asks what you want to know about pet store. And then you can say, well, I'm interested, what objects do you have? So we have user, pet, order, and so on and so on. And we're working still continuously on this. I tried, hey, would be cool here to add some buttons so you can just click instead of type. And then that works. And it will give you, for instance, for Pat, the documentation that is defined in the Swagger file. Right? It works, right? So there is a lot more information you can ask. So generic description, contact details, the license. You can ask about the paths and operations as well, and so on and so on. And I'll get a bit more into detail about technology, but first of all, what if you want to make your own chatbot? And that's where I was at the start of those 2 weeks. So first of all, you need to choose a platform. You know, chatbot, there is NLP, natural language processing. There is a chatbot environment. There is a whole, well, UI thing around it where you also need to train and so on and so on. And there is a lot out there. This is by far not a complete list. Personally, what I liked a lot was with AI and API AI. They were pretty complete in the sense that they combined both NLP and the whole chatbot environment into a package that actually works. The others, I tried quite a few, just didn't stick for me. Eventually, I went with API.ai for a couple of reasons. I got it working. You know, that's also part of the developer experience. When you try something out and you actually get something that works within the next, well, Jarkko would say 3 minutes, it's like you feel like a god. You're like, ha ha ha, I can do this. But also it's an environment that is backed by big money. So they got a couple of millions investment. There was good documentation. So same thing again, developer experience. And a quite active community as well. So there was a forum, there was activity, and there were the developers of API.ai actually responding to people's requests. So very quickly, the core of API.ai is intents. So basically it is when a user says, help, what are you going to do? And then you can also give some other examples. It doesn't say help, but can you help me? What can you do? And so on and so on. So by just giving some examples for every intent, it will also learn by itself, so that if you phrase it a little bit differently, it's still going to understand it. Also very important is context. So basically, for instance, here, when you say use pet store, it's going to remember that context of, okay, we're talking about pet store here. So you don't need to repeat that every time, like, hey, use pet store, give me the objects. You know, it's just like, I'm using pet store here, now show me this, show me that, and so on. And it will remember that. Very useful as well. Then, very important as well is the training part. And this is where we still need to improve a lot, because this is a very fresh project. So basically, we need to understand what people ask. Now, I kind of like this aspect to it. So whenever you ask something in our Slack channel to the APIBot, I'm going to see that. I'm going to see what you're asking. Kind of interestingly, so far, a lot of people try and break a bot. Very interesting as well. Very often at this stage it still works because it's not trained yet. But then we learn, right? So you get better at it and you can fix a lot of things. A designer's dream, because it can track everything and it can improve longer. So in this case, basically, it's like, okay, I got this request. I thought it was this intent and this was the answer. Is that good? And you say, yeah, good job. If it wasn't good, you can then change it and kind of, you know, point it to the right direction. Or if the user asks something and you're like, hey, didn't think of that, you can then start creating new intents and improve the chatbot over time. By the way, also no deployments needed or something. Again, developer's dream there is like, you just, you know, click, change a few things and your bot works. It's really nice. Right. Now, obviously, that's just a chatbot, so it's Slack and you can talk and it will answer you a few things, but obviously there's a backend needed as well. I'm almost old school, I would say. I really like Django, so Python framework. Basically, that's what I've been using for a while now. There's a cookie cutter which allows you to just, you know, start with a project. It works. You can deploy it in Heroku. You can go very fast. Good thing as well is we're using a Swagger parser library from Python, all open source components. Use that one, and I was good to go. By the way, also this part is open source, so if you want to check it out, feel free. I have to admit, like API design-wise, it's horrible, for the simple reason that API.ai only allows one API endpoint, and it needs to be a post. So my Swagger file would look very silly, because it's like, here's the only endpoint you can use. We're doing all the business logic in the backend. But yeah, it works. That's the way it goes at the moment, and they're still improving it as well. But yeah, so basically it's a big if then else structure. It's nested, but we're working on it every day as well. But one thing that I really thought was very interesting, and I'm going to give you a second to read this. And well, if there's anyone online, yeah, you can read this too. So basically the idea with chatbots is that we'll have to learn a lot of new things again as designers. A lot of people, when you say design, associate it nowadays with web design. You make a website, a web app. And then there is some very clear, design guidelines defined. You have a menu and white space and yada, yada, yada. And all of that is actually irrelevant here because it's just chat, which is a very natural way of communicating, of interacting, but it also needs their own set of rules. So you need to give kind of clear error messages. If you ask something and the bot doesn't understand, you need to direct the person to the right direction. You also need to give clear context, like, hey, where are we at this moment? And so on and so on. It's something that I need to learn a lot as well still. But I'm very intrigued by this because it's also it's a gold rush. Wild West, we still need to learn a lot and define the new rules in the chatbot world. And then finally, well, after those 2 weeks, we had something running, and then we were talking with Jarkko, like, hey, why not sell this? That's my business side to it. What I've learned so far as well is like, hey, when you have something, you don't know for sure, is there any value to it? Try and sell it. If it's like not ready yet, it's a good sign. And then at that point, make it ready. Don't make it perfect and then figure out no one wants to buy it. For us, it's also a good way to gather feedback that way. So, well, we're asking you money. Are you happy? Are you you're taking out your wallet already? Well, that means we're not asking enough, right? So it's a good way to get feedback. So we have our website up and running in here. Everyone can try it out. So you can get an invite on our Slack environment and then just start talking with our APIBot, who's called Borisovna, by the way. You can talk about life with her as well. Good thing is the first bot is for free. So if you ever want to just, we have an API, we want to use this chatbot because it's cool, you don't even have to pay for the first one. So, yay. And that was it for me. So thank you all for listening. I hope this kind of got your, what's the right word? Enthusiasm for chatbots up. It's all very possible. It's not magic and impossible, and only Mark Zuckerberg can do it. We can do it in 2 weeks, so can you. Thanks to you all.
Don't go anywhere. I have to come here to say it out loud that I disappointed you. The last time I visited here, I told you that you're gonna see the live version. I tried to get Philip to actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I promised, but it's my fault. Philip didn't want to do it, so let's not do it. But you have a chance to actually see it
right
after this session right now. So it's really there, even though we don't show it at the moment. So
good
my
point.
fault. My fault.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know what he promised. No, I learned, that's another thing I learned, like live demo, there's a risk to it. So like I took some screenshots, but if you want to see it live in action, then come and talk to me after the presentation is done. But if anyone has questions, think we got a few minutes for that.
So the NLP part. So I don't quite understand why you need that. Isn't it like you can just have a classical chatbot with just commands?
Right.
Why do you need the NLP part?
So that's a good question. So there's two things to that. Yeah. So the question for the people on the live stream is that why do we need the NLP part? Because you can just be done with it, kind of a traditional chatbot. That was something I considered as well, and thought I made that assumption. It was a bit naive in the beginning, and let me explain. So first of all, you can just if the user says this, then do that, right? So type it, and that was the first tool I used. It was Pandora bots, which is literally like, okay, if the user says this, then you're going to do that. Problem there is that if the user makes a typo, or even just uses different capitalization, you need to define all of the variations, all of them. So do they add dot in the end or not, or question mark is like, it's a new entry. So that's a terrible amount of work, which I'm lazy, I don't want to do that. So it's possible, but there's a lot of work involved. On the other hand, you could also just say like, I'm not going to allow the users to type, but a bit like the buttons we saw, so they can choose from certain amount of options. That would make your life easier, but it's in terms of interaction feels less pleasant. So they've done some research for it, and there is use cases for both. Typically, the buttons is more like you want to get something done and you have a clear goal in mind. Like, okay, I want to order pizza. Which one? That one. Done. Send. Here's my address. This is a bit more conversational, so it's a bit more inviting to explore as well. Something a lot of people need to learn still and see which situation, what type of chatbot. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else?
That's strictly Slack.
No, that's also a good question. So with API.ai, there is about 10, like click the button and you're pretty much done. We have it on Facebook as well already. Twilio was one, Google Assistant, Skype, there's a bunch. But they also have SDKs. So if you want to do it in Node, if you want to implement it in Android and so on, it all works. I guess then you have to build your own chat environment, but then
yeah, I meant APIBot. Did you do that strictly for Slack? APIBot itself?
Well, again, we activate it for Facebook as well. You can activate it easily in different environments. Yeah, dependent on the API.ai platform.
So that's all you need to use those buttons.
Yeah.
So that's actually not available on all platforms. So.
Right. Well, and that's also a bit like, because at some point we're like, okay, we're going to put it on Slack because that's where the developers typically are. And then, we pushed out the website, and then I realized like, hey, you need an invite in order to, use Slack. So how do we show, get people on board to use, to try it out? But then thank God open source, because a clever guy made an application that automatically sends invites. So now we have that running as well on yet another Heroku. Took me 10 minutes and problem solved. So, hooray for open source, right?
I have a question to you.
Sure.
Whenever we are trying with chatbots, we give a lot of inputs, like even like small words or like a whole sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Are you now using it to make your bot learn about what the users might ask for?
Yeah, definitely.
Is the learning going on?
Definitely. There is a tricky part though. If a user says things with a very small amount of words, it's very easy to get mixed up.
Yes.
So if you say like, show me pet, it doesn't know like, is that an object or is it a path or is it, I don't know.
Yeah.
So then it becomes very difficult. If you then specify like, show me the object pet, it knows like, okay, it's an object, and then it's a lot more easier.
So the context matters here.
But yeah, if you just say pet, it's like, well, I don't know. So to that extent, yeah, there is some learning, like some more context that the user typically needs to provide. But yeah, we're learning every day on how that works. I think it's also educating the user through the chat is also one way to circumvent it a bit. Because for instance, now I think it was you even who was using like show me the objects in pet store. Deal with that. Because the flow goes like, hey, you first say I'm using pet store, and then you ask for the object. So now it's going to answer like, because it will identify all the elements, and it was going to answer like, hey, you know, tell me first which API you're using, because then you don't need to type that over and over again. So there is this educational aspect as well that I'm trying to get in there.
Is there any research about the user experience of the chatbots?
Probably. Well, let's put it this way. A lot of design experts see it as a very big trend for the next year. Oh, something's happening. Screensaver? No. Right.
Should give it back up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something weird here, but well, good enough. Right, so it's definitely a trend that a lot of design experts are looking forward to. And research, I'm assuming there's a lot of research, or at least some research done for it. Haven't read it though, so can't help there. This may be something the guys at Futurice might know. No? No. Okay. It was worth a try.
All right, cool. Any other questions? Comments?
And well, grab me if you want to see it live.
Okay. This is a bit tricky now.
Yeah.
How do I actually access?
Also set up, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Or maybe unplug it.
My screen went normal.
Yeah.
That's good.
There is that.
Yeah.
Also shut down the projection. Says it's cooling down. Sorry. I broke it. It's gonna take a while again.
But anyway, the online people are seeing it now, and while it perks up, the next part actually is to actually decide the APIOps love, and I'm looking at now the stream of the APIOps hashtag tweets, and based on my subjective opinion, I think it's going to be the most active in Twitter with the hashtag is actually Olli Säynämäki. So you're the one who actually getting the $25 worth Amazon gift card. That one is decided. And then the second one was about be active and participate. So we had one lady here active, and then we had the host. Host was here active mostly. So for to avoid the hate from the female community members, I'm gonna give it to Nazia. And yeah, no problem, probably. And then we have the wild card, but we don't have to decide it now. And let's see actually what we actually do with it. Yeah, we know for the Twitter competition, Olli Säynämäki, and then we have Nazia for the active participant in the audience. And the wild card is still there, but let's see. We'll discuss with the host that actually what we do with it. Are we gonna give it to someone in the community, possibly online, and for some reason to actually if they decide if they are doing something worthful. But anyway, that's basically it. And then again, the local audience doesn't see anything. It's there. That's good.
Fixed it.
It's a good plan B. All right, excellent. So don't forget that in Tampere, we're our plan is to actually have a APIOps meetup once a month, and the next month, the first Tuesday of the month, we're gonna have a session, and this time it's gonna be hosted by Vincent in Hervanta, and it's gonna be about GraphQL and the opportunities and possible caveats that it actually contains. And it's gonna be pretty hot because there's one of the online speakers who's gonna participate in there is the creator of GraphQL Voyager from Ukraine. The actually hot topic and hot tool in the GraphQL community. He promised to come there online to actually give a presentation and tell about the tool in details. And then we have some local API experts building something on top of GraphQL, and they're using the TKL APIs for the traffic information, and they're doing some exploration in that area. And he's still thinking, but I'm trying to get him to actually be there. But anyway, it's gonna be something pretty interesting and hot. So grab your seat. It's the same address as for this event as well, meetup.com/APIOps Tampere, and go there and book your own seat there. And I'll bet they have some pizzas and beers as well in Vincent facilities as well. But anyway, keep that in mind. So we're not stopping at this event. We're continuing forward. But probably the July is gonna be without a meetup, because in July Finland is basically dead. No one is actually doing anything.
Except answering to public tenders.
Well, yeah, the public tenders are there, yeah, but most of the people are doing something else. So July is gonna be probably no meetup at all, but then we continue after the summer. But before the summer, we have one meetup still coming up. And don't forget that the APIOps network blog is at Medium. Go there, and you're free to come there to write your APIs related blog post as well. Just write a blog post in Medium, and then notify me, and we'll add you as a writer to the community. Don't worry about the language. It doesn't have to be perfect English. If you go, for example, to read the current blog post in the APIOps, you'll see a lot of errors, a lot of bad English, but you get the message out, and that's enough, at least for me. So don't worry about your English. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll get better once you start writing, and I'm counting on that as well. I've been writing for 15 years, and I'm still sucking it, but it's probably only me. So don't worry about the language. And then of course Twitter is the major media actually to follow, because it's integrating news flows from different sources with help of Zapier, actually, so that we don't have to do much ourselves. And then of course, if you're using still Facebook, we have a group there as well. Be there. I didn't list all the media that we are actually now have a presence. For example, we have a LinkedIn group as well and everything else, but those are the main points to actually find out more information. That's basically it. And Olli, don't go away. I need to check if I have your email, and Nasias I have already, so you'll get the gift cards from there. And now, basically, if someone wants to try out the APIBot, it's going to be here. And then we probably have some time to actually eat rest of the pizza if someone wants, and grab another beer or something else, and then and then basically at some point we'll leave. All right. Thank you for all at this point, and let's continue discussions.